Thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Write Project podcast and radio program. This is a show about writing and modern Newfoundland author culture. This program is produced and recorded at CHMR FM 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and is aired on other great stations in the province and elsewhere in the country. It can also be heard online at www.chmr.ca. I'm your host, Matthew LeDrew, author of the Xander Drew series and founder at Engine Books. Let's see what we have today. Okay, well, thank you for joining us for another wonderful episode of the Write Project podcast. I know I say that they are all wonderful, but this one really is, because we are on with Olivia Robinson, who is the author of The Blue Moth Motel, a new book from Breakwater Books. Olivia Robinson, no cheating allowed, no matter how embarrassing the answer is. What book are you reading right now?
Right now, I actually just finished a book today called The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. I love Sarah Waters. I think my favorite of hers is Tipping the Velvet. So I hadn't read The Night Watch yet, but it's set during, well, kind of before, during, and after World War II. And it kind of has an interesting reverse structure in a way, because you meet all the characters in 1948, and then you meet them again in 1944, and then you meet them again in 1941. So the book kind of goes in like reverse chronological order, which is really interesting. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. But I think next I'm going to start, I have it right here next to me, Miriam Taves's new Fight Night. Yeah.
Nice.
I think that is up next.
Nice. Awesome. Blossom. Okay. Very serious question. Very, like, prepare yourself. You've got to, you know what I mean?
Okay, ready.
Okay. If you were a jam, what kind of jam would you be?
Ooh, if I was a jam, I think I would be raspberry jam.
Okay, why?
Yeah, pretty boring. Because that's my favorite. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I don't
That's
know.
fair.
Maybe, okay, specific, the raspberry jam from the Avonlea Preserve Company on PEI. That's the best one.
Okay, got it. Got it. Did you ever consider at any point writing under a pseudonym?
Oh, that's interesting. I think yes, if I could get away with it. And I don't know why I think I couldn't get away with it, because it's kind of up to me. But yeah, I don't think I really considered writing under a pseudonym, but I like the idea of kind of not being in the public eye, which is tricky to do when you write a book. But
what a nice way of saying you wish you weren't doing interviews like this.
No. No, this is a very fun interview. But I think maybe because it interests me how like Elena Ferrante, for example, the Italian writer of the Neapolitan quartet, like nobody knows who she is, and it's a big mystery, and her novels still sell incredibly well. And I just actually read a really interesting article, I guess, like email correspondence that she had with an artist. And so she kind of does interesting stuff like that. So she is in the public eye, but in an interesting kind of on her own terms. But I do enjoy doing stuff like this, so I don't think I would be good at writing under a pseudonym and not talking to people, because I like having interesting conversations.
I guess. I mean, there's ways around it,
Definitely. And I'm sure like this email correspondence, like she still definitely has very interesting conversations with other writers and artists. So yeah, just her way of going about it. But she seems to be the only person that I know of who has done it so successfully. So I think it's very difficult to do.
Interesting. Okay. What does literary success look like to you?
Oh gosh, I don't even think I have a goal. This is a good success for me.
Okay. All right.
Just writing a book was all I wanted to do. That was my own personal goal. So just having written it, and I haven't seen a copy of it yet, so it still doesn't feel super real. I've seen the digital version, but I think once I hold it in my hands, then that will be enough success for me. Everything else will be just icing.
There's nothing like that feeling. I love being there when one of my authors does it, because it's been so long for me that like it's lost it a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that moment.
Yep, absolutely. Do you view writing at all as a spiritual practice?
Oh, that's interesting. Um, I don't think so, but there is definitely something that happens when you get in the zone and you're having a good writing day. Like there's definitely good writing days versus bad writing days. And sometimes I can trick myself into the right mood, but sometimes I'm just not in the right headspace. But while I was writing the Blue Moth Motel, I did try to, like, I was dedicated about it because I was on, especially once I was on a deadline with Breakwater, I had to be dedicated about it. So then it kind of became more of a job. Like I had to sit down every day for a set amount of time, even if the writing wasn't going super well, as long as I did something, editing or writing or uh, anything to just stay at my desk for that time and get something done. But yeah, when you really get like a really good writing day, that is a really nice feeling, but I'm not sure if I would describe it as spiritual.
Yeah, that's fair. I think sometimes that like I'm not a terribly spiritual person, and sometimes I have friends that are, and sometimes when they talk about hearing the voice, whatever they're hearing when they're when they're praying or something like that, I'm like, oh, that sounds a little bit like that. Like sometimes I wonder if I'm exercising the same part of my brain, you know what I mean? And if that's
Right.
why this question even exists, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I would say it's more of a ritual because like I'm not currently working on anything, but I do like keep a journal and kind of a notebook of ideas type thing. So um yeah, I think more of a ritual maybe than a spiritual practice, but
Like
I don't
witchcraft.
know.
No. Yeah.
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 Not quite there yet, but maybe, who
No.
knows?
Maybe. Someday. Someday.
Someday.
Yeah. Yeah. In your opinion, what is the most unethical practice in the publishing industry right now?
Ooh, most unethical. It's a very loaded question. I'm not sure if this is the most unethical, but something that I would like to see more of um, is writers of color being published. Yeah, writers who belong to any minority groups. We need to publish more of their voices in order
Yeah.
to diversify everybody's reading. So um, yeah, I just say more of everyone writing.
So that makes more sense. It's because it's hard to frame that as unethical without saying it's unethical that there are all these white people. But you know what I mean? But like,
Yes,
yeah. But I
but
hear what you're saying. Absolutely.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, we've heard those stories. So
Yeah.
let's hear some news stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Love it. Okay. What is the best money you ever spent on your writing?
Interesting. I did buy my first ever desk when I graduated from my master's. So, and I think I said, okay, this is the desk that I'm going to actually finish writing a novel on. And I did. So I guess it worked.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It wasn't a very
That's
expensive desk, but doesn't need to be in order to get the job done.
yeah. Okay. A desk. Okay. All right. I can feel it.
Very literal, I guess.
Yeah.
But I also think any books that writers buy, in a way, help with their writing as well. So I think in order to be a writer, you have to read a lot, read more than you write, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Olivia Robinson, what was an early experience where you learned that language has power?
Oh, early experience. Okay. So when I was in elementary school, a few of my close friends were in French immersion and I was not. So sometimes when we were outside at recess and lunch, they would start talking French and I wouldn't be able to understand because I'd know like 2 French words.
That's so mean.
So they were doing it to be mean, I think, because we're still all very close friends. I think they were doing it because they were excited about learning French and they were trying to teach me some of the words as well. So thanks to them, I did learn more French than I probably would have since I wasn't in French immersion. But yeah, I think that was the first time where I really realized, okay, language is cool because they can be speaking and saying things that I don't understand, and just showed me how much learning there was to do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's what first came to my mind.
That works. I like it. That's a
Yeah.
unique answer. I like it. What is your writing kryptonite?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Sometimes I get too distracted by people walking their dogs. So my desk looks over at the street and there's always lots of people walking their dogs. And usually when I'm writing, it's either the morning or the evening. So prime dog walking time. So if I realize that I've spent like 10-15 minutes just watching the dogs walk past the window and making up stories about the dogs rather than what I'm actually writing, then I'm like, okay, my brain is done for the day. So I usually take that as a sign that writing is done. But also if I just start reading sentences, the same sentence over and over, if I'm editing, then that's the end as well.
Okay, I was gonna say, so do you watch the dogs and like the dogs, or are you like, oh man, that stupid dog, it's annoying me, I hate that dog?
No, I love the dogs.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, oh look, we have something common, because like when people walk their dogs, I'm like, get inside, you stupid dog. I'm a bad person.
No, I love the dogs. But yeah, I'm probably wishing that I could. Yeah, when I start realizing that I wish I was outside walking the dog rather than, I don't have a dog, but when I see all the dogs walking by, I'm like, wow, I wish I was outside walking the dog. And then I'm like, okay, my brain clearly needs a break. And then sometimes I do go for a walk and I can reset that way. But
And you meet some of the dogs and you pet
and
the
I meet some of
dogs.
the dogs, yes, and then it's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
You would get along with my editor whenever we take a story walk together. If I lose her and turn around, she's gone. It means a block back she saw a dog and just left, gone.
Yeah. One day I was out walking and I saw someone walking a pig.
Why?
Yes, it was the best. I wanted to be their friend, but they kept walking.
Okay. Okay.
It was awesome. I would really like a pig.
That's a very sad short story. One day,
I
someone was
know.
walking with a pig. I wanted to be their friend, but they kept walking.
But they kept walking. Yeah. Oh my. It was a very small pig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My wife very much wants goats. And
Goats, yeah.
oh.
Goats, yeah. Goats are quite the character, that's for sure.
Yes. All right. Olivia Robinson. Be honest. This is another one of those like don't you lie ones. We're all, being vulnerable here. What is a word that you cannot spell? If this word is in your book, spell check spelled that word, or your editor did. You just spell it wrong every time.
Veterinarian. Cannot spell veterinarian. Which is kind of funny because when I first started my undergrad, I was going to be a veterinarian, but could not spell it.
That would have been funny.
And yeah, it would have been good. And another one is therapeutic.
I would have a hard time spelling therapeutic.
Yeah, which is also funny because I used to work at a therapeutic horseback riding facility. So I had to spell that word quite a lot and still had to spell it out every time.
Wow.
Out loud in order to spell it.
Well, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That is awesome. In your experience, what are common traps or pitfalls that are made by aspiring authors?
Maybe being too hard on yourself, I guess. I feel like writers are always hard on themselves and don't think that their ideas are good. But I think if you're having fun writing it, then someone else will tell you later if it's good. And maybe it's just for you, so it doesn't matter if it's good. So I think, yeah, write for yourself or for someone close to you, and then go from there to just, not put too much pressure on your writing, because then when you put too much pressure on it, it becomes not fun. And I think it should be fun.
It should be fun, and also like if you're enjoying it, chances are someone else is going to enjoy it.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree.
What period of your life do you write about or draw experience from the most often?
I think all over, really. Like in the Blue Moth Motel, we kind of follow Ingrid and Nora, the two sisters, from their childhood into their early 20s. So I didn't take anything directly from my life for the novel, but definitely some of the settings and some of the maybe images, I guess, are things that I've seen or experienced. So I would say maybe my entire life and everything I've experienced. I have a pretty good memory, I think. So, but definitely like an image-based memory. So that's kind of what I see first. So I may not be able to pinpoint an exact date of the experience, but I'll kind of see the image, and then can kind of see either myself or my sister. My sister's age is actually a better benchmark for me than my own age in terms of remembering when things happened.
Okay.
But yeah.
I that reminds me, because you mentioned earlier that like you took from PEI in the UK and places that I assume you've been and stuff like that. I have to ask, this is completely unrelated, and it's just like it thought of it while you were answering that question. I find when I'm writing a character, like when I envision a character's house, like if the narrative's going to their home for the first time, my brain randomly selects a house that I've been in some point in my life. Like it's always a house that really exists, and it's never on purpose, and it's always like, that's where that person lives, and it's only later when I think of it, but like it's always just in there. Do you do that? Is that just a me thing, or are your novels filled with, like, in your mind, the reader will never know, but like houses that you've lived in?
Interesting. No, I don't think so. But sometimes when I'm reading, if the place isn't described super well, then yes, I think my brain does kind of just fill in like a place that I've been or a house that I've lived in or been in. Um, but for the Blue Moth Motel, um, the motel itself is definitely like a conglomeration of many different motels and hotels that I've stayed in, um, which is a fun thing that you can do with writing. You can just smush everything together and make it one place
Yep.
that's like this place that is entirely your own. So that's kind of how the motel itself came to be. And then the bungalow where Ingrid and Nora's grandmother Ada lives. I'm not sure, really. I think that also is like a smushed together version of a few different people's houses. Um, my friend, one of my close friends, her grandmother has a gorgeous house. So some of the um, inspiration for that bungalow came from her house. Um, and yeah, that is very interesting. Another strange thing happens to me when I read, and I'm not sure if this happens to you, but I hear different voices.
Yeah.
So, like, and every book that I read, like the characters have different voices, and I don't know where the voices come from and how I come up, how my brain like makes them up. Like, are they voices that I've heard before? Probably a version of. Um, and yeah, and they're always different. So I find that really interesting what our brains do when reading.
I do too. I find that mostly for reading, but sometimes for writing, my picture in my head, almost like a dream, like of what characters look like,
Mhm.
isn't totally perfect. So I liken it to a movie. So like if I'm reading a book and I'm really into it, you know what I mean? Like you've gotten lost in the chapter and you're just reading and you're not really even aware that you're reading. I
Yeah.
can see it happening like a movie in my head or somewhere or like in my imagination. But
Yeah.
and so like if you were a character in it, like I could see you moving and do all this and doing everything that the character does. But if I tried to pause and focus and ask myself, what does that character look like? I would not be able to. Like, if you stop it, it all falls
Mm.
apart.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I definitely, when I read it, is like a movie going on in my head. So, um, but I'm not sure if it's like that for everybody. But
Yeah. There's one character I write, and he's been in like several books. He's a crime fiction character, and I have no clue what he looks like. For whatever reason, my brain just won't hold on. I have to go look up a description of him every GD
interesting.
time. It's horrible. Yeah. What is your favorite comic book character?
Oh, my favorite comic book character is a very good question. I must admit, I don't read many comic books.
This is why I love asking this to lit fiction people, because it's always it's
But
gonna be
yeah, a couple of my friends are big fans. Um, oh gosh, I guess we'll just go with Wonder Woman
Wonder Woman's cool.
classic. Yeah.
Yep. Diana is awesome. Yep, yep. Um, let's see. Olivia Robinson, have you ever gone on a literary pilgrimage? Have you ever traveled with the express purpose of either writing or gaining insight into writing?
I have. I actually was on Trudy Morgan Cole's podcast, Shelf Esteem, right before the pandemic started, so almost 2 years ago now. And we talked about my literary pilgrimage to the UK, which I'd been planning since my undergrad. Me and a couple friends went, and we were going to go when we graduated from our undergrad, but then we didn't have enough money, and it just didn't happen. But we just kept the plans in the works, and they humored me because they're not writers. They both love reading, but I wanted to go visit Virginia Woolf's house in Rodmill in the UK.
Okay.
And I also saw a few of the homes where she lived in London as well. And I also wanted to go see her sister Vanessa Bell's house, Charleston, which Ingrid gets to go see in the Blue Moth Motel as well. So yeah, that was my literary pilgrimage because I love Wolf.
Nice.
And and her sister as well.
Nice.
My cats are now fighting in the background. Cool.
Olivia Robinson, have you ever gotten reader's block? Have you ever what about a book can make you put it down? What about a book, or is there a specific book that have made you just go, nope, I'm done reading, can't read right now?
I am usually pretty good at picking books that I know I will love to read. I'm definitely a big mood reader, so I pick up books based on the season and also what mood that I'm in. So like I have to read a book that's set in the summer during the summer. I can't read it during the winter. Yeah.
Okay.
Which does limit my reading somewhat, but I have so far managed very well. Like if there's parts of it that are set during the summer, then that's fine. Like if it's kind of a multi-decade type, like multi-generational story, then I can read it as long as I'm in the right mood to read it.
Okay.
So I am, a bit of a strange reader in that regard, but I think something that would make me put down a book is if there's any like ableist language in it or any themes that are ableist, or I don't really have time for that type of writing, and just I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, they'll do it. Yeah, for sure.
But I rarely put down a book.
Okay. All right.
So I'm pretty good at choosing what I will like, but and I don't really get in a reading slump. Sometimes I read less than other times, but Annie's back. I've really been enjoying audiobooks probably in the past year or so. So those have really increased the number of books that I can read, because I can be reading while I'm driving as well, which is like, the best.
Yeah, I do that as well. I actually have different audiobooks depending on what task I'm doing. So I have one for like being on the treadmill, one for driving that will take forever. Like I'll be reading the driving one for a year because it's 20 hours and I only drive 3 hours a week. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I just actually discovered the feature that you can like speed it up.
Yes.
So I usually listen to it, depending on the narrator, I'll listen to it at like 1.2 or 1.3 speed.
I'm a native Newfoundlander, so I've listened to it on like 2.5 speed because I'm like,
gosh.
now it feels like it's natural to me. Like sounds like Nan. Perfect. Here we go.
Perfect. Off we go.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very quick.
Yeah. And then I'll turn it back on, and it's like if I start it again or something, or if I close the app, it'll go back to 1 speed, and it feels like they're all talking like this.
Yeah. I know.
Fun. All right, well, thanks for coming on again. For all of you, we'll be here again next week at 4:30 Newfoundland time or online at chmr.ca. Please tune in and we'll talk more about writing culture in Newfoundland.